Hi guys, so welcome back to our Facebook Live series. Today we're going to be looking at maths and statistics in a bit more detail. So I'm Jacqueline, we've got Jess behind the camera who will be typing down any links and reading out your questions if you do send any in. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Nicola, I'm a second year maths student here at Lancaster.
Hi, I'm Paul, I'm a senior lecturer in the Maths and Stats department and I'm also responsible for undergraduate admissions.
Yeah, fantastic. So we've got Nicola and Dr. Paul Levy here with us. So we'll be sort of going through different questions. If you've got any questions, whether it's about entry requirements, course content or just general university life, if you want to know anything in more detail, do send in your questions in the comments below and Jess will read them out for you and we can address those right away. So, I guess we should start with our first question, just to get us all started. Okay, so we've got, right, what do exams and assessments look like in your subject?
Can I answer that one? So we have exams for almost all of our courses. The exams are kind of similar in format to the sort of exams you might have for school maths for GCSE or anything like that. At Lancaster, I don't think we've got any exams that are longer than 2 hours. And some of them are 1 hour, some of them are an hour and a half. So I think some of the places go in for like 3 hour kind of quite heavy duty exams, and I think we don't try to sort of tire out the students, so it's not too draining. The exams are important, and you'll always find that in maths. It's kind of the most sort of natural way of assessing the subject, but we do also have a variety of different coursework kind of components. We've got weekly written coursework that students submit and they get feedback on. There's online quizzes. There are some sort of computational exercises that students have to do. So as a general principle, you want to have a kind of a broad range of different types of assessment because the different types of assessment give you different ways of thinking about the subject and try and get you to understand it more completely.
Okay.
Yeah. So
would you say some of it's sort of argumentational and some a bit more?
The style of the questions, yeah. I mean, that would be more sort of written homework. You might be asked to show something, you know, or explain why something is true. You do need to sort of go through the steps in an argument. Depends on the subject. If you've got something that's statistics, it would be more, you know, might be more, here's the data set, you need to come up with an answer for it. If it's a sort of very pure mathematical module, like number theory, you might be asked to prove that there are infinitely many prime numbers or something like that. So it's a bit more, it's a range of different styles. You wouldn't be all kind of argumentation. Sometimes you need to do some computational stuff as well. And
it's good to get those mix of skills, isn't it, and to be able to develop those through assessment. I mean, as a student, how do you feel, I mean, especially with the jump from sort of sixth form or college into going into university and doing different types of assessment, how do you feel like that's gone for you?
I think one thing for me that really helped is that in your first year, I don't know if it's changed since last year, but first year is sort of 50% end of module test and weekly coursework, and then 50% is the summer exam for each module. And I think just having a little bit more flexibility and getting that sort of weekly feedback rather than jumping straight into all summer exams just gives you that little bit more chance to settle in, get your feedback, get used to the style of the questions and stuff before the summer exam. And then in the next sort of second, third year, it is slightly more summer exam focused. You kind of know what to expect and what you're used to by then. I feel like first year does help sort of the setup, the structure of the modules does ease you in a little bit more with that jump from college. So.
Interesting, because I think when anyone thinks of exams, they think of just like the end of year summer exams. It just seems so daunting, but really what you're saying is it's kind of more support there, right? And as you're going along, you'll be able to develop the skills and be able, by the time you get to those summer exams, you kind of know what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, some universities do a semester system, which would mean they would have exams in January, typically. Right, in North America, there would be sort of December or something, you know. We don't do that in Lancaster. We've got a sort of a 3-term system, so the exams at the moment, that hasn't changed yet. It might do in a couple of years' time. The exams are basically all in the summer. And what Nicola's referring to is in the first year, you have sort of, they're not quite mid-terms. They're kind of, you have at the end of a unit, you'll have a kind of a little bit of assessment that gives you sort of part of, you know, by that stage you've already done 50% of the course, so that's a kind of something that means you're not, you know, it's a bit of insurance apart from anything else, right? But it's also making sure that you're on top of things at that stage. So but supportive, and it's encouraging you to keep up to date on things. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Okay, so if anyone's just tuned in, we've just been talking about what assessments and the criteria for that looks like within the Maths and Statistics Department. So if you have any more questions regarding that, please do comment down below, and we can get back to you on those. So should we move on to our next question?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Right, okay, so what do you look for in a personal statement?
I guess that's for me.
Yeah.
So the application. This is about sort of applications for university, and you write your personal statement on your CAS form and so on. We look at all of the personal statements that are submitted with applications. I don't necessarily do it personally, but we have a team that's working in admissions and looks at all of those personal statements. And there's no hard and fast sort of rule for you need X. What we're trying to do is to get some sort of evidence that this person is enthusiastic and they're not just like a robot sort of filling in things in the way that somebody might have told them to do. So, we like, obviously, if you've got some activity, if you've done tutoring or if you've done math challenges or, if you've done something like Maths Olympiad style kind of activities, then that's great to put in, but it doesn't need to be something specifically like that you're putting in your personal statement. I also quite like it if people say they've got other activities like music and so on that that they're interested in. So we're not saying you have to be kind of absolutely committed to maths from the age of 16, and we're not going to consider you otherwise. We're trying to get a glimpse of who you are as a person, really.
Yeah, interesting. I guess that's something that maybe a lot of the students, at school probably aren't quite sure. They want to just say, I love maths, I love this, and it's important to sort of let your personality shine, and show them what else you can do outside of maths, and any sort of talents, any sort of interests and hobbies and passions you have. They will contribute towards your personal statement and towards you getting into university potentially. So yeah, that's really interesting that you said that. So we've got some questions coming in now. Okay, so I think
there was something else on that question. I remember it said something about what kind of things.
Yeah, if what sort of activities and reading and sort of opportunities that students can take up now to really boost their interest in the topic.
Well, I'd say anything that's fun. I mean, I realise we're dealing with people of different ages. There's a bit of a trend, or has been a bit of a trend towards sort of advancing people through the maths system at school. I don't think that's necessarily the only way to go. There are other things you can do. I mentioned the UK Mathematical Trust, Maths Olympiad, or kind of things like that. Or one way of learning about more maths. There's also any of the books by a guy called Martin Gardner, who spent decades writing sort of mathematical puzzle books. Those are good to look at and to take up. It's not specifically that you're learning about the subject, but you're doing little puzzles, and hopefully they're something you can be enthusiastic about. That's really what you should be enjoying it, and not just going, I've got to get through this thing, and then I've got to do that. It's not an endless stream of sort of drudgery. You want to be doing things that are fun. Yeah, hopefully.
Because you enjoy it and you're passionate about it, right? Yeah. So some quite cool resources there for you guys to pick up on. And if you've just tuned in, we've just been talking a little bit about types of opportunities and the things that you guys can do in order to sort of boost your interest in a subject and to sort of increase that knowledge before sort of applying to university, and something that you can demonstrate in your personal statement as well. So Paul has just demonstrated some really cool resources for you guys to use that you could sort of look up later on. And we've also got some questions, I think specifically for you, Nicola, as well, from Rachel. Hi, Rachel. As a current student, what graduate destinations have you thought about?
That's the big question. I chose to study maths at uni. It was something I've always been good at, but other than that, I wasn't really sure, and I'm still not sure what exactly I want to go into. What I would say is it doesn't really matter if you don't know exactly what you want to do when you leave uni. I'm second year now, and I also know a lot of third years who don't know. What I will say is coming to university has opened my eyes to so many more options, and it's not just coming to uni and then going into a job. There's so many different things you can do, and while you're here, there's loads of different internship, work experience, placement opportunities to try out loads of different things. There's the minor system in your first year as well, which we'll probably talk about at some point more, where you can in your first year get a taste of another subject, which might not be something you've thought about before. I did that, and and found mine really interesting and sort of opened my eyes to other options that I'd never considered before. So I don't really know what I'm going to do in a year and a bit's time, but I'm definitely less worried about it now than I was 2 years ago, which it kind of seems like it should be the other way.
Yeah.
Coming to uni, you start to see that a lot more people than you think don't know what they're doing, but there's loads of options and loads of support and stuff. So.
Yeah, that's great. So you were talking a little bit about support. So what kind of options does the sort of, whether it's the maths department or just Lancaster Uni in general, have sort of career support-wise for students?
Well, generally, like from the last 2 years, I've had help from the general uni career service. They've got loads of stuff. They do skills workshops. You can just take your CV, and I've done that. The guy just sat and went through it with me. He always changed this, that, and the other, and the rest was fine. And that's made such a difference, just having an expert's opinion, I suppose. So that's the general careers service, and they're always advertising different opportunities and stuff. Through the maths department with careers, I get emails all the time with relevant jobs, part-time jobs, work experience opportunities, internships, things that you wouldn't even think that are maybe even just vaguely related.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
You're just kind of open to so many more opportunities without necessarily having to go and look and find them and stuff. And I think it's definitely a big help.
And you find that after you've taken those opportunities, you look back and you never would have imagined yourself doing those kinds of things 100%. Before coming to university. I mean, for me, I didn't even know my degree existed before I started looking for universities and looking at open days and things. So yeah, that's a really important thing to take away, I think, is that sort of career destination is not a straight line. It can be quite rocky, and there's nothing to say that you'll be doing the same thing for the rest of your life. So yeah, I mean, in your experience, Paul, how did you get into maths, and was your destination quite straight?
Mine was fairly sort of linear, but I think maybe I'm not really typical. But I did the classic thing where I continued studying because I didn't really want to stop, and so I got to I did a master's, what's called Part 3 Maths, and then went on to a PhD, and then sort of couldn't really see myself doing anything else. And that sounds a bit negative, but there is something to be said for that. If you can't really think of yourself living any other life than doing this thing, this is mathematical research. At that time I was thinking about research. Obviously now I do a lot more teaching and so on, but then that's probably quite important to you. So I had to travel around. I lived in different abroad for a bit. Before I came here in 2009. So as a student, it was very much, the next step in continuing studying is to do this. So I think by the time I was in my second year, I can't remember whether I had, it was already clear to me that I would go on to do a master's. I can't remember what I was thinking at that stage. I guess, is that something that you've, not to do a careers consultation online, but is that the kind of thing that you think about now?
Yeah, I'm not sure, just the fact that, I know people, I've got a few friends in third year, and they're looking at whether they're doing a master's or applying for grad jobs, or looking at sort of taking some time out and travelling and maybe doing another job while earning some money until they work out what they want to do. I think I always thought that you come to uni, you do your degree, you get a job, and then that's it, you just carry on what you're doing. But just sort of talking to people and seeing that there's so many different things you can do, sort of whatever it is you decide. It just takes the pressure off knowing that everyone's in the same boat.
And that's one of the biggest things, is coming to uni and anything like that seems so scary, meeting lots of new people, but you are all in the same boat essentially, right? And with everything. So yeah, if you've just tuned in, we've just been talking a lot about sort of career destinations, and how perhaps career destinations and working towards your dream job isn't necessarily linear, and we've been talking a lot about career support within the university and within the maths and statistics department. So if you need any more information on that, Jess has very kindly posted a link in the comments. If you just go to www.lancaster.ac.uk, you can find out anything that you'd like about there, about the career support, and other information regarding courses, etc. So we have got, I guess in relation to that, in relation to your sort of destinations and career destinations, how you got to where you are now, Rachel also asks, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I guess that's quite a...
Who's that for?
Both of you, that's for both of you, yeah. I've just put both in brackets there.
I'm not sure. I'd like to think in a job that I'm enjoying, whatever it is, that it definitely uses the stuff I'm doing at uni. I don't think the sort of research academia route is probably my kind of thing, but I'd like to see myself using sort of what I'm learning doing maths now and applying it to sort of maybe more business situations. I don't know, I just hope I'm in a job that I'm enjoying, and I hope I've had some time out to travel and do some other stuff as well before then. But I don't know.
It's not necessarily about being an expert in everything, and it's not necessarily even knowing exactly what it is you want to do, but it is kind of understanding what kind of person you are and how you like to learn and what you'd like to bring to the world, if you like. So even if you don't know exactly what you want to do, it's important to sort of that you learn those things while you're at uni and while you're doing the courses that you're doing, and that can definitely help guide you along the way. Right?
I think Nicola's is sort of at a kind of a stage where she's just beginning to get to the more advanced kind of material in the degree. We do find quite a lot of people sort of towards the end of the second year, in their third year, start to think, oh, this is what I want to do. Because you're getting a kind of a base across the whole subject, and in the third year at Lancaster you can choose, you've got completely free reign among all of the modules that we as a department offer. So a lot of people go in the sort of statistics route, and they decide, oh, I really want to do medical statistics or something like that. Some other people go towards education, they might want to be teachers. We get people doing more pure mathematical route, and you would tend to do that and go into maybe into a fourth year of study, or a master somewhere else or something like that. Or people just look around and think, right, well, I want to do insurance, actuarial stuff, or I want to do, finance of some kind. It does tend to be something that really starts to become clear when you get to the sort of the third year. We do have a certain number of students who kind of rack their brains, and I think they can't quite make their minds up. But I would say that number diminishes as you get into the third year. And the great sort of benefit of doing something like a maths degree or a maths with stats degree is you've got a general set of skills that give you a lot of options for which way you might want to go. And that's why the general skills, the general topic degrees have actually, there were a lot of predictions when these new fees came in that people would do more sort of vocational degrees or things that were specific to certain industries, and that hasn't happened. Mostly what's happened is people have gone back to the traditional subjects because that's very flexible. If you've got a general set of skills on a particular subject, then you can apply it in various different parts of the economy. So I think that's why, you've still got a lot of sort of leeway even once you get to the end of the degree and various sorts of things that you might do.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, at school, maths is just maths, isn't it? I mean, to me, maths was just maths, and I never really understood how it could apply to the real world. So I guess coming into and doing the degree really allows you to see the impact that it actually has, and it's not just maths, there's loads of different areas in which you can take it and lots of different routes in which you can take it. So that's really, really cool. If you'd like to know more about the maths and statistics courses, I believe we've got a question coming up that relates more about sort of the research that you do and the courses that we have. But if you do want to know more about the research and the courses that the Maths and Statistics Department do follow their social media and their online page, which Jess has posted the links for in the comments below. Okay, so we do have a question here as well from Millie Shearman. I hope that I've pronounced that right. Hi, Millie. And it is, if I take a mix of maths and stats modules, will I have more career options? It's kind of what you've been talking about in a way.
Is that, I'm not sure what that refers to, is that at A-level or is it just for the degree?
For the degree, I should imagine.
Possibly for the degree, okay. If you're applying to Lancaster, because you don't really get as much choice with A-level anymore, do you? If you're doing the degree at Lancaster, and then, you want to sort of pick some sort of mix. I think generally speaking, it's good to do some statistics if you want to leave that option open. We do find people go into medical research, or one common employer is something like marketing. It's surprising how much statistical analysis and so on people like Boots might need. So they're one of our, sorry, I shouldn't advertise, but that's an example of a company that quite a lot of our graduates go to work for, and you might think, that's a bit strange, but it's not sort of in the shop. It's research of the kind of the market and so on, and you need somebody who knows their stats to do stuff like that. So I would say yes. If you compare it to just doing pure maths modules, it's probably good to have some statistics, but you're still on pretty firm ground if you've got a maths degree, if you did kind of all maths, because you've demonstrated that you've got that ability to learn these kind of complicated techniques and so on. So Yeah.
So good to have a bit of
It's
everything.
a shade. I would say it's a shade, but it's a bit better.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, obviously, if you don't really enjoy statistics, then there's no point doing statistics modules because you're not going to enjoy it and you're not going to succeed. But yeah.
Okay. Oh, I mean, Nicola, you do a bit of maths and statistics, right? So, I mean, in your experience, do you feel like that's true? What Paul's saying?
Yeah, I found it like really useful, and to me, I think more than anything, having the maths and stats is just because they are slightly different. Like as I was saying before, and like the way you might answer a question, the way the question is structured, it's just nice to have that little bit of variety. I think more than anything, rather than it all just being sort of one direction focused.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a bit of everything. Really, just breaks it up a little bit. I think.
Someone once told me you can never be too educated. So there you go. To have multiple eggs in one basket, and it just opens your career options up. Well, of course you have to like it if you're passionate about it. Yeah. Right, fantastic. So if you just tuned in, we've talked a little bit about sort of career destinations, and we've talked a little bit about different types of modules that are available in the Maths and Statistics department, and where that could take you, and the sort of career options that might open up for you. So I think we'll just go to one of our questions here. Move on. Move swiftly on. Okay. So this is about the application process. How competitive is the application process to your subject? So I guess we're talking about
someone has experienced it, and then there's a question for me about how competitive it is.
Yeah.
At Lancaster, we consider all applications on the same level. If they're submitted before the 15th January deadline for UCAS, then every application is treated equally. And we have a kind of a fairly transparent sort of set of offers that we will make. Now we'll make those based on somebody's predicted grades and so on. And if we think somebody has a fair chance of making them, making the offer, then we'll probably make an offer, if you see what I mean. So it's their choice. There are some of the universities who factor in other things, in the offer. They make certain things requirement. So here, the standard offer is kind of that you can see what you will get, and we make that decision quite a long time in advance. So we've already made the decision for the next application round. If you're thinking about applying next year, the offer that we will be sending out has already basically been decided. So it's not competitive in the sense that you're competing against other students who are applying for the same degree. Because it doesn't make any difference what anybody else does. The offer is kind of the offer.
Okay.
See what I mean? I think there might be other universities who are a little bit more selective, maybe just because their position or because they want to maintain a certain sort of prestige or something. But I think for us it's fairly transparent that what we're actually going to offer. Okay.
Do you have quite specific requirements for sort of the application process?
Yes, the requirements that we have at the moment are it's a slightly complicated system because we like to encourage people to do as much maths as possible during their A-levels. We kind of offer incentives for doing further maths or for doing something like the test of mathematics, which is kind of an extra test that you can do in November if you're up a sixth. So we offer what we call grade drops for those things. The standard offer is 3 A's. Which is quite a strong offer, but it's probably not the most kind of difficult in maths. But you can bring that down to AAB and maybe even ABB if you've got certain combinations of things. If you're studying further maths, for example, that's something that we incentivise but we don't require. So those details are kind of on our website, so I don't want to go into kind of too much sort of technicalities of it. But the requirements are, specifically we're looking really at maths as the main one. We do need an A in A-level maths because we think, if you're, that's kind of what you need in order to succeed at university level. So
I mean, Millie's just asked that question. Do you have to study further maths to do maths courses at university?
You don't have to, no.
You don't have to, but you do incentivise it if you do.
Some universities require it, we don't. Now, did you study further maths?
I did.
You did. I think it's the majority of our students who have studied further maths. But the ones who didn't, obviously they're a little bit behind at the beginning, but we do provide all of the required sort of cover of the material through the first year of the degree.
Right.
We basically make sure that everybody's up to speed.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you might have to work a bit harder when you first start, but generally speaking, there's you should be able to catch up with everybody else. So it's I think the experience usually is that the vast majority of people who come in without having done further maths are okay. Might be one or two who find it a bit too hard, but I think people generally speaking they're not at a long-term disadvantage, not at Lancaster anyway.
Yes.
So
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. And Nicola, do you feel like that's helped you doing the further maths A level?
Yeah, I think the first sort of couple of modules, I definitely saw a lot of bits from further maths A level, and it was almost quite reassuring just with it being the first term that I did recognise more of the stuff. But it was all covered, so I knew that if I hadn't have known it, although I would have had to have maybe put a bit more thought and work into it, I would have caught up, I would have got that bit. It was just kind of reassuring. It was almost felt like a little bit of a head start, even though most people in the room had the same head start.
Yeah.
It was just quite nice, but it was also reassuring that if I had forgotten anything as well over the summer, it's like a 3-month summer or whatever before you come to uni, is a nice little recap. You kind of go over the stuff you've probably forgotten. So yeah, definitely. I think it does help more just because it's reassuring than anything, but there's plenty of opportunities to catch up. It's not like you're at a disadvantage, I don't think.
Right, nice. So I guess Millie, that was answer your question there. You don't have to have further maths, but it might help for you to have it if you do. Sorry, I've got
just one extra little thing. We
Yes,
have noticed there's been a bit of a change this year because there's a reduction in funding for the 4 A levels. You only get funded for 3, but it's a bit of a complex situation for people coming through at this stage because there's some extra government support for further maths. So the schools we're not 100% sure what's happening with them. Usually further maths A level is still running, but it's quite possible that there are people who would have done further maths AS level before as a sort of taster in order to see whether that's good for them and whether they would continue on to further maths A level, but that we think that's probably not happening so much. So I would say that's definitely worthwhile, and we are looking at, we've not taken any decisions, but we are looking at the further maths AS and considering whether that is also something we might sort of incentivise. We've not taken any decisions yet, so we basically the more maths you study, the better. Well, it's not essential, but we would like everybody to take any opportunity they can to study as much maths as they like, because we're mad about maths. So it's
I guess it's the same with a lot of things as well. It's like get as much experience as you can, get as much knowledge as you can before applying and before coming into university, because not only will it help you get into university and boost your personal statement, but it's good for you as well, I suppose, as a student and as a person, to be able to have those skills before even coming to university, and then it's just sort of onwards and upwards from there, really, isn't it? So, right, interesting. If you do want to know anything else, all the information about the Maths and Statistics Department is on their website online, which is www.lancaster.ac.uk/maths. I've got that right, haven't I? Yep. You can also follow them on Facebook, which is Lancaster Uni Maths and Stats. We have tagged them in this video, and on Twitter as well, at Lancs Uni Maths. So do follow them on all those platforms in order to keep up to date with all the course content and things like that. So yeah, if you just tuned in, that's basically what we've been talking about. A lot to do with the application process and career destinations and what the modules and things look like. I'm quite intrigued actually, just about the application process. I should imagine, Nicola, you do a lot of open days representing the department. Do you find sort of with students that come up to you, one of their biggest concerns, is it the application process? I mean, what's the most common thing that you find they're worried about?
I think for a lot of people it's coming to the university itself. I think a lot of them have decided what degree they want to do, and a lot of the ones I've done have been like post-applicant ones, so they've kind of already gone through the personal statement procedure and things, and it's coming sort of they go around the different universities and getting a feel of whether they'd like to live there. But a lot of people definitely are keen to see the department, start meeting the staff and things like that, and seeing if it's somewhere they feel like they could be happy studying.
It's a tipping point, I think. I think for me, when I went to an open day, the tipping point was the taster lecture, and at that point I was like, yes, I want to come here. I love this subject, I love this place. On that note, actually, Lancaster do have some open days coming up. I would say the best way to gain some knowledge on a university and to really know whether you want to be there is to go and visit it, to be able to talk to as many people there as you can, and to get a feel for the place. Someone did tell me once that it would just feel right when you get to the university that you end up being at. When I first heard rang true for me in the end, and when I came to Lancaster, that was it for me. So they do have various open days coming up, which are the 29th of June, 13th of July, the 7th of September and the 14th of September. So if you just go onto the website www.lancaster.ac.uk/study/open days, you'll be able to find all the information you need there to register for an open day. And you just have to search the relevant course in order to do that. So yeah, cool. Should we move on to the next question?
Sure.
Right, okay. Okay, so a bit about your alumni. What are your previous students doing now, and what successes have previous alumni had?
I think that's for me again. So we get statistics on where people go to after the degree is finished, so we keep in touch with some of them,
yeah.
For various reasons, but we also get there's a survey of people after they've graduated, so we get statistics on what happens to our graduates from undergraduate degrees. So if they've done a bachelor's, for example, done a 3-year degree, what happens to them 6 months afterwards? And almost half have gone into further study. So that's probably quite good news, because it means that there's that proportion who are doing master's degrees or maybe teacher training, who are kind of feel like they're ready to take on more knowledge before they can go to whatever it is they want to do. Quite a lot of those are on master's degrees in the department, so we have a few of them. There's one in statistics, there's one in data science, which is relatively recent, which has been quite popular. There is one for researchers, which is a kind of preparation for doing a research degree, a PhD. That's statistics and operations research. And there's one which is in quantitative finance, I think it's called. So there's a few different sort of postgraduate degrees that the department actually offers. Quite a lot of our undergraduate students say, oh, I want to do that as well. But then people also do lots of other things like actuarial science or conversion courses to finance and so on, where they're doing further study with a view to going into a very specific profession. We find some people go directly into finance, or they go directly to become statistical analysts and so on. I mentioned stuff to do with marketing, but there's also kind of more other stuff like medical, so stuff that might be considered a bit more noble, like medical statistics, which is stuff which is about the production of certain drugs and medical treatments and so on. We have quite a few of our students go into those different lines of work, sometimes working for companies that do computational things, broadly speaking, whether it's online platforms and so on, and people are using their mathematical skills in that kind of setting. So yeah, it's quite a lot of. Teaching is also, not a majority, but quite a few people go into teaching. Certainly a sort of reasonably common kind of route. And when we have outreach days, we quite often find that the teachers who are bringing pupils in for our outreach days, events on campus, are actually former students here. That happened to me just a couple of months ago. And I said, where do I recognise you from? And this teacher said, you taught me at Lancaster University. So it's quite. There's a few different routes for people to go into.
Okay. Is there any sort of I don't want to say obscure, but perhaps places that school students probably wouldn't expect maths to take them, if you know what I mean? Any sort of companies or places that alumni have gone previously that maybe.
So I guess we sometimes mention GCHQ as a sort of, I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing. We mention GCHQ as a kind of government intelligence. We do have people who go into that sort of thing. I guess the most unusual would be people who are lecturers in the department and have studied as undergraduates at Lancaster. So there are a few of those, particularly on the statistics side, because there aren't very many statistics kind of research centres in the country. There certainly aren't many at the same level as Lancaster. So, and pure maths, we do have a lecturer who was a PhD student when I arrived here in 2009. So he's and he left and then came back again. So so that's probably the most unusual. It's actually people who are lecturing in the department who are graduates here.
Okay. So it's kind of more common to sort of go out and sort of enter into the world and sort of work. Okay, nice, cool, interesting. So if rattled on so much, just forget what you started with in the first place. Oh yeah, we're talking a lot about alumni and where maths sort of takes you, and some specific examples of different areas that alumni have gone into previously, which might inspire you to want to sort of follow on in that direction. We've talked a lot for a little while, so we'll just take a little interlude. You mentioned finance, so I guess this kind of links on really, really loosely. We have got the piggy bank guide here with us. If there is anything that you want to know, any concerns that you have about student finance, dreaded student finance, and anything that you need to know about maintenance loan and student loans and things like that, do find this resource online at www.piggybank.org.uk, and you'll be able to find this on here. And it's basically a guide of everything you need to know to do with money advice and to do with financial things, which could come in handy now, or for when you're applying for university. So yeah, do find that. Now I'm not quite sure what the time is, but I think we've got quite a bit of time for some more questions, if you guys are okay with that. So, let's see. Okay, I like this question. What advice would you give to young people studying their GCSEs who are unsure what they would like to study in the future? So we can start with you, Nicola, 'cause you're kind of speaking from experience. So.
Yeah, so like I said before, I'm second year now and I still don't know anywhere near exactly what I want to do or what I want to go into. I didn't when I got here. I didn't at A-level, I didn't at GCSE. My advice would be, more than anything, it doesn't really matter. You know what you're good at, you know what you enjoy. My best advice would be pick a combination. I chose maths because I do think it's quite broad, like we've been talking about. There's loads of different things you can go into, things you might not ever expect. Think about sort of how broad you're keeping your options if you're really not sure. Try not to pick anything too specific. But like we said, to come and do maths here, you do only need maths, so don't necessarily worry about doing further maths if you want to keep your options open with other subjects and you're not really sure. But don't pressurise yourself to narrow down your options because you think you need to know, decide something really specific. And then, because if you change your mind, you can't really go anywhere. My advice would be don't worry and just kind of keep your options as broad as possible.
I think at Lancaster, that's really handy that they've got this minor system in the first year, because it does give you a chance to sort of dip into different subjects and to give things a go. And if you do want to change, you can just switch things up, can't you? So yeah, that's quite handy actually to sort of keep your options open. And what about you, Paul? What would you?
That is essentially what I was going to say. I mean, you have to do something that you're happy doing, whatever it is. So I think the main advice is just the usual one. It's not a sort of a platitude about do what you love, but actually try and make sure that whatever you choose to do is something that you can be relaxed and doing, and not stressing out all the time because you're kind of worried that maybe you should have done something else that was more suited to you. So if you enjoy maths, then that's certainly something to think about doing. But if you kind of only want to do maths because it's a kind of thing that people are telling you have to do in order to earn some money, then probably not going to work out, because you need to be able to go through the dark and cold periods of the year when you've got to get yourself out of bed and then study when you don't particularly want to, and that's going to be really difficult if you're not really motivated to study the subject. So
definitely. I'd agree with that. Just so keeping your options open, and I guess if you're sort of following the things that you enjoy and following the things that you're passionate about, then no matter how hard it gets, you're prepared to learn more about it, aren't you? And you're prepared to work hard at it, because it's definitely not all rosy and bright when you're doing a degree. It can be a bit sort of up and down, and it is a big commitment, isn't it? 3 years, and even though Lancaster does have its flexibility system and its minor system in the first year, it is still quite a big commitment. Definitely sort of following the things that you enjoy and sort of seeing where that takes you is always quite a good idea. Okay, so we'll see what our next questions are. If you do have any more questions to send in, please do comment below and check out all the links that Jess has posted. Okay. What current research is taking place in your department, and how does this impact the course?
The question for me again. I can't exhaustively go through the areas that are being researched. Pure maths in particular is kind of extremely sort of inaccessible to to anyone who isn't already in pure maths, basically. I can say that on the pure maths side, my research interest is in algebra. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. But on the pure maths side, we have the kind of traditional areas that you might expect a pure maths department to have, and therefore our curriculum on the pure maths side is relatively sort of traditional, standard. That sounds a bit boring, but I think there are some departments, maybe in the world, in universities where certain things are not there in the maths degree, but we've got the kind of the usual core on ours. We've had quite a lot of people appointed recently in areas of pure maths, especially algebra, and then something called discrete mathematics, which has led to some sort of changes in the curriculum. We've had more advanced topics introduced particularly later on in the degree, but then I kind of can't really explain what those advanced topics are because we've not got long enough. And it's the sort of thing where people's eyes tend to glaze over if you do try and do it. So I'll move on to statistics, which is a bit easier to kind of say some of the interests in the department. So the department is about half and half. If you look at the academic staff, half pure maths, half statistics. One of the areas that we've got on the stats side, which is particularly active, is medical statistics and sort of clinical trials research, and they do a lot of research on the effectiveness of certain treatments, and there are quite a lot of members of staff and then regular PhD students and research assistants who come through the department, and there are several undergraduate modules that have been introduced over the last few years that reflect those research interests. So you can, as an undergraduate, and this is something Nicola will be thinking about quite soon, is her module choices for next year. You can, in the final year, in the third year of your degree, you can do a module on medical statistics. That's quite popular because it's a real introduction to the kind of general principles around it. And if you continue on to the fourth year of a master's degree, or if you do the MSc, which is a separate course in statistics, then you can do much more of that. So that's certainly one area that I can explain relatively easily, which is where statistics research that is taking place in the department has a direct impact on the curriculum.
Cool. And Nicola, do you feel like you have a favourite module? I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're studying and sort of what you're...
So the thing I definitely found about uni maths compared to sort of GCSE or A level is GCSE, especially math, like you said before, maths is maths. You know what to expect. It's the same kind of questions. They get a bit harder.
Dreaded maths.
A level, it's it's split up into I think they call it core maths usually at A level. But then you've got mechanics and decision, statistics, and you kind of start to get an idea for which maths is which, I think. And then you come to uni, and again, it's kind of split up further. And it's just quite interesting to try different types of maths out with different questions, different ideas, things you wouldn't even necessarily have considered maths before. It's just completely new and different things. Sort of, you've got your statistics modules, you've got ones, like especially at the start of first year, that are fairly, like a lot of A-level content. And then you've got things that are just completely different. And it is really interesting to see the different types, see what you find interesting. There are things you enjoy more than others, but you get exposure to a lot of sort of different areas.
It's about being given the opportunity to dip into different things, and and if you do a module and you decide you don't like it, that's okay, because at least you've been given the opportunity to try it out and to come to that conclusion. Do you have like a favourite module to say?
Favourite module? I've quite enjoyed the linear algebra modules so far. So I have linear algebra 1 in your first year and linear algebra 2 in your second one there. I'm pretty sure they're both compulsory. I think that's right. But I really enjoyed those.
It's a good thing you like them then.
Linear algebra 1 sort of, first of all, follows on, I think, from probably A-level further maths, a lot of like matrices, things like that. And then it does obviously get harder, more complex. But it's following on from the same ideas, and for me it was just the kind of thing I enjoyed. But I've enjoyed different aspects of different modules, and it's been nice to kind of like something from all of them, even if there's something from all of them you're not as keen on. It is a nice balance of everything.
I think something that's worth saying is that we do. I'm not sure if you've been given this yet, but we do signal when you come to choose all of the different optional modules in the third year. We sort of signal which ones from the second year are required and which ones are related to the subject matter that comes later on. So based on what you've enjoyed, you can then go, oh, I don't think I'm going to do that one, but I will do this because it's more like the kind of maths or stats that I enjoy doing. So you're not just sort of left in the dark.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's kind of visually clear. Yeah.
I've seen
That's
that.
handy.
Have a look.
Yeah.
So a lot of support then, very transparent in the way that you sort of promote these subjects and the way that you're informed as students, right? So that's a really cool thing. So we've just been talking a little bit about research and some of that's available in the Maths and Statistics department. Do follow the links down below to sort of link to their website and to their social media to find out more about that if you'd like to know more. We do have a couple more questions for you, if you're okay with that. Yeah. Normally run out by this point. Just non-stop. Okay. So I guess we've kind of talked about this already. Are there any work experience opportunities on your course? So, sort of set placements.
Yeah, there is something we didn't talk about. We, in the department, started running specific degrees called placement degrees 3 years ago, and so what they are is degrees where you do, in the third year, you take that out from studying to go and work for a placement company. So it's one of the partner companies that the university has.
Okay.
And then you come back and do your third year of study. So you take that year out in the world of work. You also have to do a certain amount of kind of study which is related to the placement. So it's not just a degree where off you go on your gap and go and work for somebody. It's kind of, you're supposed to be reflecting on your experiences in the employer that you've worked for and so on. We only launched that 3 years ago, so our first cohort of students are currently working on their placements now as we speak. So we've only got 4 because it was, these things usually kind of start with small beginnings. And that will increase because we're getting more and more people applying to this as an option. So that's something very specific where it's a kind of a placement as part of your study.
So you have to apply for it when you're applying for the whole degree course?
Yeah, roughly speaking. You can transfer onto it during your first year,
right.
But the point is it's a degree which is BSc Mathematics bracket placement, or Mathematics with Statistics bracket placement. So you signal to anybody that, obviously it's not just an ordinary degree. You then have to apply for the placement, and there are a range of different companies that run these placements, and we can't control who they'll pick and who they won't pick. So there's no guarantee that you would get one of these places, but you get a lot of support from the university to kind of, Nicola referred to the career service, but there's a dedicated team for the placements degrees, the placement degrees, right? And they give you a lot of support with your CV, with your interview. You have practice interviews, you have practices and psychometric tests and so on. There's all kinds of things which are helping you to get that placement. I think the people who've been on it, certainly I've heard good reports, and we will see next year if they come back and say, I doubt they're going to come back and say that was dreadful, because I think the experience across the university is that this is really good for getting you into the world of work and thinking about that, and then maybe being sort of the opposite extreme to Nicola, who's kind of very happy to just sort of see how things go. But if you're somebody who wants that kind of program, and that the moment you've graduated, you kind of more or less got a career path, then the placement degree is definitely an option.
It's just sort of taking that opportunity to sort of learn a bit about what it's like to work in the employment world. And I find, for me, I didn't really do like a work placement for my degree, but sort of finished and I sort of thought like, well, what now? That kind of thing. And so it is good to be given that opportunity to have that experience and to learn all these really important skills that will help with interviews and just being a sort of a worker in a way, which is kind of different to how things are at uni. So that's really, really cool. We've just got a question in, which kind of links to what we've just been talking about, from Nicola Wiley. Hi, Nicola. So the question is, have you or any of your friends done an internship or work experience? So I guess this is for you, Nicola. Have you or any of your friends done an internship or work experience? Do you have time to work alongside studying?
So I've got friends who are applying for like summer internships and work experience over the summer, and I know that it can be quite competitive, and there's often a lot of interviews, different types of interviews, like phone interviews, video interviews, face-to-face interviews. There's tests online. There's a lot of, every company seems to do it a different way, so I think it can be quite difficult just to sort of get into that. But like Paul said, there's a lot of support. They have workshops especially for like every type of interview and every type of test.
Cool.
And there are, I think the earlier you start looking and start applying, the better, the more opportunities there are. A lot of them are on like rolling deadlines. In terms of working, so I think work experience, most people tend to get sort of in the holidays, sort of with like professional companies that they might want to go into. Whereas part-time work, personally I've got a part-time job on campus. I find it fine. I think it's just finding the balance between how much you work. It can be very easy to suddenly agree to loads of shifts because the money's nice, but it's about finding the balance between working enough and getting the money that you want and having that experience. But obviously you're here for your degree, that's a priority, and it is just about, I think, finding the balance. And sometimes I think it can take a while to establish that, but especially like I was saying before with the structure in the first year course, I think it does give you that little bit more. I think the first year of the course is that little bit more structured, and with the, it's kind of almost a bit more told what to do and when. Definitely helps you to sort of establish that for the other years, and then you can work out when you can maybe slot sort of part-time jobs or societies and stuff in around that. I think it's just trial and error really.
Definitely. It's one of the biggest things about uni in general, is just learning time management. That's one of the biggest skills that you learn to take away after it all. And it's the same with when you're joining like societies and things. I mean, like, are you part of any societies?
Yeah.
I'm
involved with a couple. So with the part-time job and the course and stuff, it has been, especially this term, sort of juggling things, and it's just slotting everything in at the right time. But obviously your degree comes first, and it's making sure sort of your weekly courseworks and things, you're on top, and you're on top of revision. We've just had exam timetables through for this summer, and it's suddenly making sure you've got the time aside to revise. And I think a massive thing about uni is time management, and as long as you've kind of got that, it almost doesn't matter how much of the stuff you're doing, as long as you can organise your time properly. That's the hardest thing, I think.
And you do find that there's like quiet times, isn't there? With all of the things, like if you're part of society, there'll be really busy times, and then it will kind of die down for some reason or other. And it's the same with your degree as well. You'll have really busy times, and other weeks where you just have nothing on really at all that week, and it gives you time to do all the other things that you enjoy. So it's just about sort of taking those opportunities, and there's, you can always try things out and sort of drop out with them again and pick things up when and wherever you feel like it. Nicola's living proof that it's possible to do all of these things at the same time.
Have you done the Lancaster Award, or?
Kind of in the process of it. I think the deadline's sort of June, so I need to actually formally write up the stuff, but I think I've done the stuff to get the points. So the Lancaster Award, I think just quickly explain it. Feel free to correct me if I get any of this wrong, but it's basically an extra award that the things you do, sort of societies and work, ambassador work, different workshops you go to, all worth different amounts of points, and they can add up to like bronze, silver or gold. And so when you've got that Lancaster Award, it's saying I've put sort of this many hours and this much effort and this much time into doing other stuff alongside my degree, and sort of got these skills and got this out of it. It's just kind of an extra thing to make sort of all the other things you've done worthwhile sort of in one award, I think is about right.
And it appears on your degree, or certainly it's featured at the graduation ceremony where the following people have received the Lancaster Award. So it does seem to be something that is, it's non-trivial. I mean, it's kind of, it's worth something. If you're going to be working anyway, I mean, that shows that the university is not completely against people doing part-time work. They probably want them to do it within reason, but they're saying that's valuable. That's showing that you can you can juggle different things. You can do voluntary work. You can do all these things which are beneficial to you or to the wider community. So
and I guess you have something to show for it at the end of it. I mean, in your skills and in your development as a person, but also just in the form of an award, I suppose, isn't it? It's been given that chance to talk about everything you've done and say, as you said, Nicola, this is what I've done and this is what I gained out of it. So that's really cool. And being given those opportunities as well as being able to sort of have a manifestation of it in the form of an award. So that's really cool. So we've got about 5 minutes left. If you want any more information about the courses available in the Maths and Statistics Department, or just generally at Lancaster University, do see all the links that Jess has put in the comments below, and go from there. There'll be plenty of information on there. We do have one question left. Wondering if we can squeeze it in. I'm sort of quite conscious of time. Ooh, okay. So I suppose you've kind of already touched on this, so we might not actually spend too much longer on it. What subjects would you expect applicants to study?
Yeah, we've already, So you already talked about that with the further maths versus maths. So obviously if you're doing a maths degree, you have to do A-level maths. And we kind of view it as a bit better if you've done further maths A-level, or perhaps if you've done some maths other than just the A-level maths. But apart from that, we don't have any kind of requirement. If you're doing a minor in the first year, when you are doing a minor in the first year, then obviously the minor may have a requirement. If you're doing physics minor, then they would probably want you to do physics A-level. But you don't. I wouldn't advise you choosing your A-levels on the basis of projected forward to doing a minor, minor in 2 years' time. So I don't think that's really necessary.
No.
But
Still kind of taking it a step at a time and going with the things that you enjoy.
Yeah, I mean the traditional. It's interesting how things have changed because the kind of the standard thing for people doing a maths degree was maths, further maths, physics, chemistry, or maybe something slightly different. Is that what you do?
Yeah, I know a lot of people who have that very a lot of people now that I ask on my course sort of what A-levels they did. It's still quite a.
There does seem to have been a reduction in the number of people who haven't done 4. So you quite often find maths, further maths, biology or something, and hopefully that will go back up again because I think that maths is something that you can do the second A level without necessarily, you can do that as one of 4 a bit more easily than say doing 4 completely different subjects. But generally speaking, the science A levels are kind of the sort of the natural one because you use a lot of maths and physics anyway, for example. So they seem to be natural ones, but we do find people with very interesting combinations. I mean, Andrew Wiles, who was very famous in maths because he proved this Fermat's last theorem. That was all big news when I was an undergraduate student in the late 90s. This is the sort of 200 and however many year old conjecture by a guy called Fermat. And Andrew Wiles proved it with a little bit of trouble, but I remember reading an article that said he did French as one of his A-levels. So it's not like you have to do a particular profile in order to become, a successful mathematician or to be successful in a degree.
And I guess that's kind of what we've been talking about a lot, is keeping your options open, isn't it? And doing the things that you enjoy. And letting your personality shine through, showing that you have loads of interests and showing that you have experience in a variety of things, because it is interesting to read about, isn't it? Fantastic. I think that comes to the end of our session. It's been really, really great talking to you guys. Thank you so much for talking about your experience and all your knowledge about the Maths and Statistics Department. We've talked a lot today. All the links will be available down below after the video and the Facebook Live is finished. So thank you for tuning in. And tomorrow we'll be talking a bit about politics and international relations. So don't forget to tune in tomorrow at